Hi everyone, Jenny Thomasson here, and I wanted to hop on today and do a live. It's been a couple weeks since I've done a live, but I've been sharing lots of posts, so I hope everyone is enjoying that. My video today, I'm actually going to be doing a modern, very contemporary, clean lined holiday design. And I'm going to be using flowers that we see a lot during this season in the flower shop. I'm going to be using some pine, some red dogwood, red amaryllis, and then some beautiful red roses. I am using a container here. This is a ceramic glaze container, and it's got some great texture, variegation of color, really interesting vessel. And I'm using some floral foam inside of it. So that's going to be my support for my design. What I'm going to be doing is I've got 2 bricks here. I've already cut this one down. So I'm going to take my knife and just right with the edge of the container, I'm going to cut that oasis down because I don't want it to be too tall. I don't want to have to cover all of this space. So if I keep it low, then I know when I put my material in, it's going to be really easy to cover my mechanic. So then I'm going to cut this guy. I'm going to cut him in half. And I'm going to wedge that half in one side and then cut the remainder in half. And I'm just going to put those guys in next to each other. That's just going to keep all of this nice and sturdy. And I'm always going to make sure for my floral foam that I keep water in my container at all time. I never want the water to go away because I always want this foam to be completely saturated. Most of our flowers do really well in water, so we never want this to dry out. So make sure that it always is filled with water. And I've left a space, here I'll tilt this and show you. I haven't filled it completely with floral foam. I've left a space so there is enough for like a reservoir to hold the remaining water. So we don't have to fill it constantly, once a day, go ahead and give it a check and fill it as needed. So our next step is we're going to be using our Amaryllis, which is a super wonderful flower. We get it a lot in the winter time. And these have not yet opened. So as this design sits on my table, I'm going to take some pictures over the next couple of days and post it so you guys can see the stages of this design and that you can really enjoy it. Now, they do have hollow stems. So there is a risk of crushing this wall of this flower or bending it, or sometimes it splits. So you want to really take care of this when you're using it, especially in a floral foam. So to prepare these stems, we're going to go ahead and use, I've got some wooden sticks here, and the full length of them was this length. And I went ahead and I just cut them in half, because I'm not going to need the whole length of that stem there. So I've got 3. I feel comfortable with using 3 around. So I've got my waterproof tape, and I'm going to take 2 strips of that, and I'm just going to put them on the edge of my table. That's what I always do, so then I know when my hands are busy, I can just pick it up and use it. I don't have to worry about pulling it off of this roll. So that's a nice little tip. Taking my amaryllis, I've already given them a fresh cut. I'm going to turn them upside down. And then I'm going to take these wooden sticks and I'm going to put them on the outside of the amaryllis stem. So I'm going to position them in like a triangle, equal placements, as much as I can. And I'm going to hold them in place there. So see, they made like a prong. Can you see that? 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to take my waterproof tape because I've already pulled it, so it's right there ready to go. And I'm just going to line up my waterproof tape to the very bottom of my stem. And I'm going to wrap it all the way around. And I give myself enough of a piece that I can wrap it more than once because I want to make sure it's really nice and secure. And then I don't just do it once, but see how that's all on there? It's right to the end. I don't just do it once, I actually do it twice. So then I'll take my other piece and I'll go down to the bottom here and I'll wrap it again. It keeps those wooden stakes nice and straight and secure. And these are going to help us push our amaryllis stem into our floral foam. Now there's another little tip that I use, especially when I'm using these amaryllis when the stems are so long, because I want to give them a nice support. So I'm going to use another stick for support. So this is a red dogwood stick, and we're going to be using these in our designs, but it is a great support for this Amaryllis. So anything that's coming off as a little lateral, you want to go ahead and just pinch those guys off. We don't need them. We need this stick to be as clean and straight as possible. Now, you can use a gladiola stem if it's nice and thin, so it goes inside that hollow part of your Amaryllis. Or you can use a hyacinth stick. In this case, the hyacinth stick is not long enough, so I need something that's got a little bit more length to it, so it can support my whole length of my Amaryllis. So I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to line this up. This is like the trick when you line up flowers at the edge of your vase, or edge of your table, so you know where they need to be on your vase. So I'm going to line that up, and I just want that dogwood to just be a little bit longer than my Amaryllis stem. And I'm going to see right where those flower heads come off here, and I'm going to give it a cut. I'm going to cut that tip off because I don't need that. But I am going to use this part. This is going to be my support that goes inside that hollow part of my Amaryllis. So I'm going to push that guy through there, and you'll know when it stops. You feel when it hits all the way to the top. So I know I'm giving this stem a lot of support. From there, because my stem is already cut, then I can push down into my floral foam, give it 2 hands so you know that it's not going to break on you. And it's in nice and secure. Look. Isn't that great? It's a great tip. And you can use this in any of your floral foam designs, or even in your vase designs. You don't really have to put the stakes on the bottom for the vase design, but the inside support for the vase designs you can use. Because the tops of these Amaryllis are just so dense with flowers, they get really heavy, and we just want to give them a little bit more assistance. So there, and then I'm going to turn. I've already prepared these guys. So you can see I've already got the support stakes and the inside. And I'm going to do 2 more. I want to give each stem its own kind of place in this. So you notice I'm looking down here, but I'm not staring down here when I'm pushing in. I'm looking up here too, because I want to know where my flower head is going to be. And then my last one, I'm going to go over here. Where's my flower head? It's away, so it's a nice balance. And push that guy in. So then my Amaryllis is in my design. I've got my 4 stems, and these will open up beautifully. Like I said, I'll take some pictures as I get to enjoy the progress of the stages of life for this flower and this design, so you guys will see that. I'll post those later next week. So from there, this is the height that I know that I'm going for my mass of my floral. So this is going to be an upright trajectory design, so everything's going up. So it is a, horizontal or a vertical, mind you, it's a vertical design, but when I get all of my flowers up here, I'm going to have a horizontal mass within it. So there's a great discussion on opposites there. A little bit more interesting to look at. So because I've already established that's where my Amaryllis are going to be, I know the height that I want to put my red dogwood. So I'll give these guys some cuts. Like I was saying with the red dogwood, there's a trick, like where you can put it, where you can cut it. So we use the trick a lot in the trade too, where we see where the head of this dogwood is up here. And I know that this is the bottom of my vessel, so I'll give it a cut there. And you can use this trick in vase designs too. And I have a variety of shades in this red dogwood. Some of it's a little bit orangey, some of it definitely red, some a little bit more burgundy, and some on the tips it's almost to the point of drying out. So it has a black patina, but I really love all the stages that we see and all the colors. You'll notice when the Amaryllis opens, it also has a little bit of an orange tinge to it with this variety. It's not so much of a dark blood red, which I just love. I call that my transitional element. If you guys have been watching my lives, I typically will find something that has all the colors for the palette that I want to use. And I say that nature did it God did it, so it can't be wrong. So I like to really search out transitional elements. And although the dogwood and the amaryllis have those colors in them, those are not my transitional element for my design. My transitional element was actually inspired by a food. And then from that, even further, it was inspired by my lovely friend Renee. She did a beautiful design for Thanksgiving that had cauliflower in it. And the texture was just fantastic. The color was exquisite. So I took that inspiration and said, I'm gonna do that with my pomegranates. You guys can see that here, the pomegranates. If you look really close, and I'll show you when we get there, but if you look really close, you can really see the colors that we're using here. You can see that there's a little bit of the orange in the pomegranate. There's also that red in the pomegranate, and it's just fascinating to me. Plus the additional texture interest that we get by using something like that, especially for the season. It's very appropriate. So you can see I'm building my red dogwood around this section of amaryllis that I have created. And again, I'm looking up here all the time. I'm not necessarily looking down where my dogwood is being placed, because I want to make sure that the volume on the top of my design is proportionate to everything else that I'm building. And these straight, beautiful stems, the amaryllis having no foliage, the dogwood having no foliage, it really does enable your eye to just go straight up, because there's nothing here that's kind of stopping your eye. If this were a flower that had a lot of foliage here, you wouldn't see the transparency, and your eye would almost be paused by all of that foliage. So even if you have a flower like a rose, like what we're using next, that does have some foliage to it, if you want to give yourself a lot of transparency and a lot of visual movement, go ahead and remove that foliage and use it without it and showcase the natural, beautiful stems, showcase a lot of transparency. There's a level of sophistication that comes with that as well. Really the comfort of being able to extend your design rather than just keeping it short and tight, really extending it and letting your audience enjoy, like, oh, that stem, I mean, really, that's how it was grown. That's how it is in nature. That's how I really love to appreciate it. So why not let that kind of sing its glory? So we've got a great volume with this. And then we're gonna come to these beautiful roses. Aren't those great? And I did remove a lot of the foliage from these roses. I am not gonna take off the thorns on these roses. I'm actually gonna leave the thorns. Again, that transitional color, if you look really close, there is like some orange in there, which pulls us back to our transitional element, which is our pomegranate. So I'm gonna leave those thorns on there. I just think it's a beautiful addition. And I'm gonna keep these rose heads similar in height to our amaryllis. So again, we have a vertical design with upright trajectory, so everything's facing up. And then we have, I'm gonna keep building here, but we are gonna have a horizontal area here, a mass area, and we have lots and lots of transparency going on. Anytime that you can bring some opposite elements like that into your designs, you're immediately going to be grabbing the viewer because it's not something that they're usually used to seeing. I like to say that sometimes in design, if we make it a little intimidating, it pulls the viewer in. Like, oh my goodness, what is that? Why are we doing it like that? Not to say intimidating in a bad way. Maybe intimidating to kind of push the boundaries of what that individual may have experienced with floral design. So we're going to keep that going with our roses here. And you can see I'm giving it fresh cuts every time and pushing that into the floral foam at least an inch. That one's going to be a little too short for me. I'm not going to use him. Now with the Amaryllis, I will say I have experienced Amaryllis that have had cracked stems. We talked about them being hollow stems. They've had cracked stems or they've had split stems and they still have lasted. So just because it does have a little crack or a split, and just a little one, not a big long one, but a little crack or a split, you're still good as long as you're hydrating them properly, you're giving them the support that they need, making sure that your vessel is filled with water. And they're a great long-lasting flower as well. You can enjoy these for a good 5 to 7 days, depending on the environment that they're in. And just rotating this around, making sure I have a nice balance to it. And we talk about proportion for this. So we like to talk about proportion in like the Fibonacci rule or the golden rule. We also can talk about it in 3-5-8, which is a great proportion method to use. So my 3 in this design, my smallest amount of space taken up by this entire piece, is going to be this section here, that horizontal mass section that we talked about. My 5 in this design is going to be the space from here to here, so the flowers to the bottom of the vase. And then my 8 is the entire height of this design, which goes up a little bit above the camera that you guys can see. I was just getting so excited. And I took some pictures of the sketch that I did before I did this design. And I'll make sure that I post that as well, so you guys can kind of see the backgrounds of the creative process. All right, from there, you can see that when these Amaryllis do open, this bud here is going to open, it's going to fill in that space. This one's going to fill in this space over here, up, and then in the front there. So it's really going to make this whole top take on a completely different direction, which is great, again, to really get to enjoy the process and the stages of the design. So then I'm going to take my pomegranate, my transitional element. So it's got those oranges in there, those beautiful reds, the burgundies, a little bit of that black tone. I'm going to take my wooden stake here, and I'm just going to push that into the back of my pomegranate, and I'm going to be able to insert that into my floral foam. And I'm going to use that. I have 2 pomegranates here that I cut in different ways. This one's a wedge. This one here is just cut in half. And I'm going to nestle those around in little clusters and little sections. And then I've got, to cover my mechanics, I've got some black charcoal, because I just want the bottom to recede. I don't want to really draw too much attention to it. So I'll put that charcoal there on top. And then a repetition of form to my charcoal. I've got some black river rock that has a great smoothness to it. It replicates the shape of the pomegranate, but it also has that beautiful texture that is also very smooth, like our dogwood stems and our amaryllis stems. So I'm gonna be able to tuck in some of those down at the bottom. And they have a nice reflective quality to them as well. So it brings a little life down into the base. And then my final touch, I've got some pine, which is very seasonal, very Christmassy. And I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna strip off a lot of the pine needles, just so it's not too heavy. I just want that texture little bit of that color that brings us back into the stem there. And I'm just gonna give it kind of whiskers, if you will, like a little texture, like whiskers, you know, down in the bottom. Again, just strip off, you just grab those pine needles and just pull them down. Isn't that great? It looks just so festive and beautiful. I want to wish all my friends out there a very happy December. Happy December 1st. And I've got a promotional coming up tomorrow and a couple days after for my book. It's a great idea for a Christmas present. So if you visit my website, jennytfloristry.com, you can order my book, Perishable Poetics, from there, and I can sign it for you and get it mailed out. And if you use promo code GIVE, G-I-V-E, you can get free shipping through the end of the year. So I want to thank you for watching the live today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be taking pictures, like I said, and I will share them. And happy holidays to you all. Stay happy and healthy and safe, and mwah. Love y'all. Bye.